There's something dangerous happening out there. And by the time it becomes big enough for you to act, it'll be too late.
Hello there.
This is where the fun begins.
Hey there guys, Unofficial Star Wars here. I hope you're all doing well, and in this video we're going to be talking about the runtime for the next episode of The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 6. The runtimes this season have really been, well, all over the place, as short as 30 minutes and as long as close to an hour long. It's even more insane to think about that this season alone has featured the shortest episode yet of The Mandalorian out of all 3 of its seasons, and also the longest episode out of all 3 of its seasons. However, that's besides the point. The next runtime for the next episode of The Mandalorian is going to be very similar to what we saw in the previous episode. The previous episode, Episode 5, Season 3 of The Mandalorian, clocked in close to 40 minutes long. And it featured quite a bit of action throughout it and really carried the narrative forward and set things up for what we're going to be hopefully seeing in this episode, Episode 6. So this here all being said, the next episode of The Mandalorian Episode 6, Season 3, is reportedly going to clock in close to 44 minutes long and 14 seconds. I'm also hearing that this is going to be without credits, so the overall episode will probably be closer to 50 minutes long, but that would be like with credits. This is coming from Star Wars Coffee here on YouTube. They're very notable for reporting on things like this, all types of Star Wars related news, leaks, breakdowns, and things like that, so check them out. I'll have them linked in the description down below. It definitely does feel like the first half of the season was rather slow regarding its overall plot and narrative, and we didn't really have a clear-cut direction of where the story was headed exactly. However, after seeing Episode 5 with the return of Moff Gideon and seeing his whereabouts and everything else like that, seeing the Mandalorians now being moved to Navarro again, it definitely does now feel that we are in a clear-cut direction of where we are exactly going to be headed. I also have a feeling that this next episode, Episode 6 of The Mandalorian, is going to have a lot more to do with Bo-Katan. I know that she's been a very centric part of the overall Season 3 of The Mandalorian. That is not necessarily a bad thing, but to a point, I saw a lot of people like pointing it out these last couple of episodes of The Mandalorian for these last couple of weeks, and I never really paid attention to it all that much. I don't really think it really affected the story all that much. However, with Episode 5, I do feel like that it took away a little bit from Din Djarin and his overall story. I don't really feel like, now that I reflect back on the first half of the season, that we spent a whole lot of time with Din Djarin and really getting to know him, well, like moving his character forward and everything like that. And even at that, if for anything, having him go back to the Children of the Watch and redeeming himself and everything like that on Mandalore and in those mines and all that happening in like the first 2 episodes also feels like it kind of takes away from everything that the show has been about. That of course is into the regards of the first 2 seasons of The Mandalorian have been him about not becoming a stone cold killer bounty hunter exactly, becoming a more loving father to Grogu and accepting of him and getting more comfortable with him and everything like that, so finding a purpose with love and just having that father-son relationship kind of overall. I have discussed and talked about this here a little bit here on the channel in and out of our Mandalorian videos. However, 6+ months ago now, we had reported here on the channel that there could potentially be a Bo-Katan spin-off Disney Plus show, and it kind of does feel like, in a way, this season has been very heavy with Bo-Katan, so maybe setting up her character to go off on her own adventure, as we had seen at the end of the previous episode of The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 5, having the armor set, like, just set her off, and like having her take her helmet off and everything like that, having the armor also turn around and be more accepting all of a sudden of like being able to take your helmet off, and also just being more accepting of the fact that there are other creeds and cultures of Mandalore. However, I do think that we could be in store for maybe a Bo-Katan spin-off series. It does feel like that this season has been doing a lot with Bo-Katan and her overall character, and I think that Katie Sackhoff is more than deserving of having her own Star Wars live-action show. She's more than talented when it comes to the role of Bo-Katan, voicing her both in animation for Star Wars The Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels animated shows, and then also bringing this character to live action has been flawless. I would also love to see Bo-Katan pop up somewhere in the Ahsoka show and team up with Sabine Wren once again, as we had first seen the two together in the Star Wars Rebels animated show as well. Also, having the armor set Bo-Katan off to go find other Mandalorians essentially and bring them back to Navarro to kind of join them, not necessarily in their creed and in the Children of the Watch with not being able to take your helmet off and everything like that, but just being more accepting of other Mandalorian cultures and creeds, as I had mentioned, coming from the armorer. that feels a little strange. It feels a little weird, especially when we saw her in the Book of Boba Fett. She was very uptight about not wanting anything to do with any other Mandalorians, and also the fact of not wanting anything to do with Bo-Katan as well, completely 110% blaming her for the fall of Mandalore because she had taken the Darksaber willingly from Sabine Wren without winning it in combat or anything like that. And then to see how far the Armorer has really come this overall season, and having her a lot to do in this season and being around a lot overall these last couple of episodes has really shown that overall development, I think, on that side of things. So to see more development on the side of Din Djarin and have hopefully these last couple of episodes more heavily focused on Din Djarin the Mandalorian would be really, really great. I'm not really sure as of like what we're going to see with Bo-Katan, if we're going to see Bo-Katan like in episode 6, 7, and 8, or if having the armor like send her off to go find these other Mandalorians and bring them back to Navarro is essentially kind of just setting things up for Bo-Katan to have her own show. And I think with that, really only time will tell. Now, I do have another theory though about having a big Mandalorian civil war kind of breaking out towards the end of the finale here, and also kind of with the Imperial Mandos that maybe potentially are the ones that are responsible for breaking Moff Gideon out of the New Republic jail system, making him never make it to trial even, also showing the flaws in the New Republic of how they just don't necessarily care about such major threats like Moff Gideon, or aren't necessarily being all that like concerned about those kind of threats as well. Really goes to show like everything that we do see later on in the sequel trilogy. Something that is also confirmed by Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau is that the Mandoverse here, with all of its different shows, like all the seasons of The Mandalorian, the Ahsoka show, the Book of Boba Fett, Star Wars Skeleton Crew, and whatever else it decide to announce, is all kind of building towards this 30-year gap of between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens. Anyway, I digress. As I was discussing here, I think a little bit of a theory of mine that I have here is that we could see some type of big Mandalorian civil war essentially breaking out here, where it would take place Navarro. Mandalore is probably the most likely option here, of having these Imperial Mandos going against the Children of the Watch and like pretty much any other like Mandalorian culture and creed out there. We'll see our heroes losing, the Children of the Watch and Din Djarin and the Armorer, Paz Vizsla, and all of them, and then all of a sudden I think that Bo-Katan could come in with like all of these other Mandalorians like Kosha Reese, Boba Fett, Fen Rao, so many others that could essentially just help save the day. Now, that's just a theory of mine, something to throw out there. Overall, yes, I know I talked a lot about everything that was going on in The Mandalorian Season 3. Stay tuned for later in the day. I'll also have a preview video here coming out a little bit later in the day for the next episode of The Mandalorian Episode 6, Season 3. Of course, the overall purpose of this video is discussing its runtime, clocking in at 44 minutes and 14 seconds without credits, so it'll probably be closer to 50 minutes with credits. Of course, I would love to hear all of your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. What are you looking forward to seeing most in this episode of The Mandalorian and its future coming episodes of this season here as well? What do you guys think about the runtime? I would love to hear all of your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Of course, this has been Unofficial Star Wars. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Have a great one, guys. May the Force be with you as always. Peace out.